Welcome to Journey to the Parliament, episode 16, where I speak with Lawrence Lerner, someone I met back in 2018 and has been involved with, and he has very many interesting ideas, and he's done a lot in the community that you may not know about. But today, we're going to introduce. Hey, Lawrence, thank you for being with us.
Good morning, Ed. Thank you for having me.
It's always a delight. You're always one of the more fascinating people I have in the community. Um, but let me let you tell your own story. How did you get yourself here?
So, I've been a practicing pagan and witch for 40 years. And that was a conscious decision that I made in my late teens is as I started to pick up and really feel my spirituality, something in the tradition that I was born in, uh, wasn't resonating with me. And I started looking around for other faiths and things that were more in line with the time that I was spending in nature, the feelings of connected with spirit and maybe multiple spirits, and the source of the divine. And I came across actually initially ceremonial magic. So I spent a good number of years in the 80s, or actually late 70s, early 80s, studying ceremonial magic. And I discovered Starhawk. And I won't go through all of the whole journey, but over time, it's developed into a fairly eclectic Wiccan pagan tradition with overtones of ceremonial magic. My connection with the goddess Eris as a priest, and having taken that very seriously, and we can talk a little bit more about that as
Mhm.
um, we talk about Parliament, and then really coming. I was under the radar for many years because of family and other things within the community that people weren't. We're still a marginalized faith as the overarching, pagan community, and a lot changed for me. From a business standpoint, I started as a developer, and as I grew into running larger and larger businesses, some globally, and I became a venture capitalist, people were a little more accepting of maybe some of the esoteric and eclectic ideas because I was funding businesses when I moved here to Seattle.
Mhm.
So a lot of different things. I took over Pagan Pride in 2016 here in Washington State, became very involved with the larger pagan community around that time, and then integrated a lot of those things on the journey to Parliament. But let me pause there for a second
Well,
because I
okay,
could.
that's terrific. So, no, it gives us a lot of meat. So you look very young, I must say. You
Thank
talk
you.
about the 70s and 80s, and like, oh my gosh. Um, so you've been doing a lot of things that you've worked in this kind of learning magic while learning sort of this other mystical art we call venture capitalism and business. A lot of it. But what brought you to Parliament? I mean, I met you. I'm trying to remember if it was 2015 or 2018. I'm having I have to look at.
So that's part of the journey, and that's a good question. Parliament came across my radar
Hmm.
along with all of the other religious things that would flow through my social media in 2017.
Hmm.
So I signed up then. And what I decided was what I had done, and what I had done in business is I build networks. I build
Hmm.
technical networks, but I also build networks of people. So I went through my LinkedIn, I went through all of my other magical, occult, esoteric contacts and started reaching out to people. And your name came up. And that's how we met. We started chatting
Hmm.
online probably
Right.
around late 2017, 2018. And I met probably 20 or 30 people and started chatting with them very heavily. So by the time,
Hmm.
my goal was by the time that I got to Parliament, um, we'd have some pre-made conversations and things that we wanted to discuss, like the Pagan Credit Union project
Hmm.
and some of the other things that we're trying to do in the larger world, especially around outreach.
Well, I've always benefited from it because I remember one of the things I came up with is at the time I was trying to bring back the Daily Spell, uh,
Right.
as a media team. Well, 5 years later, I've got a completely different system that's in place. But it was part of that adventure, and it was also talking about the Bitcoin, the blockchains, and this idea of trust. And the one thing I came away from, not only the ability to network, because I've watched you network with everybody, and you continue to do so, and I think you've been and I want to talk about that next. The influences of what came out of Parliament, because I've seen a lot of influences that came out of Parliament with you. But you were absolutely enjoyed it. We were sitting down the stairs in Toronto, that talking to everybody. You actually have a real enthusiasm for talking with people. I've noticed that. Can you talk to about that love of actually having a discussion and actually knowing how to do it? Hmm?
Well, thank you. That's, if it's a big part of being relatable to people and enjoying learning from everybody, because there's so much going on in the world. There's so many new ideas, things that we do. And I've just always had a knack, and it was strange as a developer. I think I found as if I wanted to get out of the cubicle, I'd have to be able to talk to business people, which led me to be able to talk to people in our spiritual practices and learning from their journeys, equally as much as sharing my own. It makes life better. It makes it more fun, and you build this sense of connection. And if you look back, you'll go back to faith 500, 1,000 years ago, even 4,500 years ago, to some of the Sumerian practices and things that I do. It was just part of life, and that's what makes it enjoyable to me. That sense of connection and community. Nothing's more important to me than community.
That makes sense. And that's one of our common grounds. So you attended Parliament 2018. And
Mm-hmm.
you had what? I'll come back to that. But you have had a lot of impact, because I think you're one of the few people that I've actually seen an actual impact on the community. Because I've noticed that you've helped out with a lot of people with social media, from Phyllis Broad and all sorts of myself and other people that have been involved with it. You've given good advice. It's always surprising where you end up. I mean, Davros is one of those places you end up in, all these strange
Yes.
places, and you're able to influence people through your networking. You talked about that, and the Parliament seemed to have taken you in a new direction of networking that I think the community is very grateful for. Can you talk about that?
Yeah,
Hmm?
I think Parliament gave me realization and permission to be out as a pagan. Because I'd always said to myself, I had one of these conversations internally of, well, as soon as I can start to retire, I can be a priest full time and I can be with the community. And what Parliament taught me was you can do both.
Hmm.
And just like people have done for centuries, it gave me permission to talk to people of our faith, talk to people of other faiths, and really do that level of outreach. And thank you for the compliments, because that's what builds the network. So I was working in as venture capitalist in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space. I got two bills passed here in Washington State, along with others.
Hmm.
And that gave me permission, I think, in the community and myself, to be um, unafraid to have those conversations with business people, with legislators, and be very open about being pagan. And it's when I started to do my "So You're Coming Out as a Pagan" class. And that's what, and once that started, I found people were more accepting, probably because I was accepting of myself in that role in the community.
That's a hard thing to recognize. Now, what event during 2018, and then we're going to move on a little bit from there. But really, what it was like? Do you have any memory that you particularly enjoyed, or memories that you had that really made an impact during the event?
There's a picture, and I'll go snag it. And it's actually you, me, and Oberon Zell sitting in the pagan booth, and people coming by to stop. I mean, Oberon is a big figure in the community, and even not, people stopped by and talked to us.
Hmm.
That to me was a turning point of really being connected with the 8 10,000 people that were in Toronto. And I still remember it very, very clearly because of the number of people rotating in and out of our booth.
It was quite something. And Karen Dales and all of them that have just
Yeah,
done such a good job. And you see, and you see Karen Dale's interview. Check that little box there.
I will.
And there we go. So you've had these events. So were you involved in the 2021?
Yes, was online.
Yeah.
I did it with a group of other people from Pagan Pride. But
Hmm.
even as in 2018, where I've made friendships and stayed together,
Hmm.
uh, we had a representative from the Italian pagan community. They've invited me to their Discord server. So
Hmm.
I'm a regular participant there, teaching myself a little Italian along the way. And
Hmm.
then we've got some great people on that server, really talking about issues in the European community, as well as some well-known academic scholars. Dr. Angela Puca is on there. Marco Visconti is on there. So it's been really interesting to learn that perspective from others. So I did participate, and have kept those friendships.
And for those who don't know, during the 2021 virtual event, the pagan booth, the room that was kept for pagans online was ended up being the largest one out there.
That's
Uh,
right.
it did absolutely. So now we're heading into 2023, and you're, from what I can tell, you're as involved as you've always been, even more so towards this event. I do know we have literally hundreds of pagans coming from more traditions. I think this is going to be the largest gathering of pagan leadership, self-anointed, self-appointed, whatever way you want to phrase it. Their groups are put together. I don't care how you phrase it. I think this is going to be the largest gathering of leadership in a context outside of our own festivals, outside of our own events.
Yeah.
This is going to be inside an interfaith thing. You've been working pretty hard with a lot of the groups. I know that. Your name is always mentioned. So can you talk a little bit about your journey, this next part of the journey?
So, and it's a little bit like 2018. I'm not going in with any expectations,
Hmm.
but my two major initiatives for the community, for myself, are religious identity.
Hmm.
So people recognize and understand who we are, and cultural norming, so that it's okay to start talking about some of the concepts. And it's interesting, I'm judging an AI hackathon. For those people who aren't technical, it's, a bunch of people get together for a day and come up with business and build some technology. And the sponsors turned around and asked me, "Are you pagan? I've heard that you're pagan." So it's that, to me, is cultural norming. At
Hmm.
least it's a start of having the conversation that doesn't have a visceral reaction. So, and I'm going to be turning up, my connection to people, reaching out to some more people, and then, having those conversations about how do we get into the broader seat at the table,
And this
because
one's
we're still, sorry, go ahead.
no, 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 go ahead, please.
We're still not there.
Hmm.
After 2018, there were some horrific events, Christchurch,
Hmm.
and I wrote some articles and some letters, and I mean this in the most respectful way. It was outreach to the Muslim community, to others, and I saw a lot of events, and I saw faith leaders from other faiths being invited, um, you know, as we had been besmirched by a gunman who shall not be named, and
Hmm.
may his memory be forgotten. Um, we wanted to be part of the dialogue, and the answer at the time was no, thank you. And I think that we're at a point in the world where we need to be able to be part of the larger dialogue. And I've joined Interfaith Business. I do interviews there, and I'm encouraging other pagans to be more visible and vocal as they connect with the community.
And Yes,
Yeah,
yes, and
that I mean that's your
yeah,
life. I know.
but no, but that's yes. I mean, there's some of it. No, nope. Nobody should compare their lives to anyone else's. Everybody's life is a unique journey, and just as we're talking about this, everybody's a unique journey. We may walk side by side and follow the same path for a while, but it does not necessarily make it always the same journey. And that's what
True.
is parliament. And everybody goes to a parliament has a different experience. And yours has been this wonderful outreaching of networking, and this time it's coming back to your hometown, right?
Well, I lived in Chicago for 30 years. I grew up in New
Right.
York. But yeah, so a lot of good memories. A lot of people have already
Hmm.
reached out from uh, and I will say this on Facebook, a lot of my friends who
Hmm.
didn't know I was pagan have been extraordinarily supportive of the work that I'm publishing and the writing that I'm doing. So I'm very excited for that.
And I can understand that. So we're now at so Parliament. You're going to be there. You're going to be doing the networking. You can be found to doing things, giving advice. So if people wanted to contact you, how is the best way to contact you?
Um, Go to my esoteric website, keepsilent.me, and you've got my Telegram. There's a contact form,
Hmm.
all the different ways in the world to find me.
And so as we continue our journey to the Parliament, you're talking with Lawrence Lerner, priest, businessman, and a community developer. I mean, he helped. He does more than just be activist. He helps develop. And so thank you for being with us, and we hope to talk to you many times more as we continue towards the Parliament.
Thank you.